And as you said, you've been hard at work lately. Can you tell me a little bit about, first to back up, what is the difference between Airbnb and Airbnb.org, the nonprofit?
So Airbnb.org is an independent nonprofit. We were founded by Airbnb about 5 years ago with a mission to provide free emergency housing to people in times of crisis.
You've been hard at work in the Washington area. Tell me a little bit about what you've been doing to help coordinate some of this relief for the victims of the wildfires we've been seeing.
That's right. So, I think the first thing is just to say our hearts go out to all the families who've been impacted here, who've had to evacuate their homes. Some of them have lost their homes, and you're in our thoughts. We're here to help, and we have been working since the fire broke out. We immediately swung into action to be able to help house people who evacuated in Airbnbs, so that you have a comfortable, stable place to stay while the firefighters do their work.
Christoph, you've had a long history in humanitarian work and disaster response. Why does this specific model of emergency housing that Airbnb and Washington 211 are partnering with work?
Well, this is really a great solution for families. I think, if you've ever stayed in an Airbnb, there's a huge diversity of options on the platform, and each family gets to choose which Airbnb there is going to work for their family. And so if you've got pets, you find a pet-friendly place. If you need a wheelchair accessible place, if you need to stay near your kid's school or your job. And so what we do is we're giving credits to families who have evacuated, and they get to book a stay in any Airbnb that they pick in the area. And so it really gives people agency in a moment when they've lost control over large parts of their lives. And obviously, staying in an Airbnb has all sorts of amenities. You've got a washer and dryer. You typically have a kitchen and a yard for the kids to run around in. And so, compared to staying in a hotel or a congregate shelter, this just provides a much more, I think, psychologically calming place for people to go through this terrible experience.
And you mentioned some families that have been evacuated lately. Tell me a little bit about who may be eligible for Airbnb.org service.
So if you've evacuated, we're focused on, 6 counties and 3 tribal areas in the Spokane area. If you've evacuated, what you can do is to call 211. So either dial 211, which is a toll-free number, or 877-211-WASH. If you evacuated into Idaho, you need to dial the 877-211-WASH. And there you'll speak to a specialist at the 211 service. They'll do the evaluation. Basically, it's pretty simple. We're just looking to verify that people are from the evacuation zones. And then depending on the size of the family, they'll be issued out some credits very quickly into their Airbnb account, or we'll help them set up an account, and then we can take it from there.
Thank you for explaining that. So you've previously said that emergency housing should feel like a home and not a shelter. And you've also talked a little bit about how, having that diversity options, whether wheelchair accessibility or families, matters with the agency. Tell me a little bit about I know it's early, but have you heard any stories coming out of the Washington area that really touched your heart?
Well, it is very early days here, but we have a long history in Washington. Just in the last 5 years, we've provided over 17,000 nights of free stays in Washington State. Just in, a few months ago, there were the terrible floods in Washington State, and we provided over 1,000 free nights there. And, I remember a story of one of those families. She was in a wheelchair. She had 2 big service dogs. They couldn't find a place to stay that would take the 2 dogs, and she was not going to leave the dogs in a kennel. She needs them to get out of bed. And we were able to get them a pet-friendly Airbnb where they had a full home. The dogs were welcome there, and she was able to stay with her dogs during that time. And so you can imagine going through the trauma of seeing your house destroyed or evacuating and not knowing what's going on. And then having on top of that the stress of where you're going to stay, how you're going to pay for it. I've got pets. Do I just sleep in my car? And we can remove so much of that psychological stress for people by just giving them a home, a stable place to stay that's going to fit their particular needs. And so we know those families are out there right now, and we're doing our best to help house as many of them who need our help today. There's thousands and thousands of families out there who are affected by this fire.
So speaking of that, the thousands of families affected, how does this partnership with the 211 app help ensure that you can get services to those families maybe a little bit quicker than you could have otherwise?
Well, we always work through local partners, and 211 is a great service. They're a call center that helps provide referrals to people of different social services that are available to them. And this way, when people call into 211, 211 can help them access other forms of support also, not just housing. And so by working through a local partner, we're really part of the local system and thinking about a more holistic approach to helping people as opposed to you've got to come to us for housing, and then you've got to go to another place for other services that you might need. 211's kind of one-stop shopping, and that's why we always work through local nonprofits. They're part of the community. They understand the needs. They understand what's available in those particular areas, and they're going to be best positioned to really leverage our support and get that support in people's hands immediately.
And recognizing it's early, how long does Airbnb.org plan to stay in the area and offer up these credits in the service?
Every disaster is different, and we're there for the duration. I think our biggest value add is really in the immediate response when you have to have a big surge and people are really scrambling for options. As the situation goes on, more and more options become available. People get insurance payouts, there will be FEMA assistance, other forms of assistance get organized and stuff like that. But with our technology and our platform, we can really flip a switch and help a lot of people very, very quickly. And so our niche is really in the rapid response, but there are places where we continue to be active weeks, if not months after the situation, because it just calls for it, and the need continues to be there. So we don't have a fixed time that we're going to end. When the need is satisfied, then we'll move on to the next disaster.
Thank you. So let's also talk about the Airbnb community. It's not just those who are renting, it's also the hosts. What can they do to help if they're in the Spokane area at this time?
Yeah, I mean, Airbnb is a community of hosts. There are millions of hosts around the world who choose to open up their homes every day to welcome people, and the human instinct of neighbors helping neighbors when there's difficult times it's universal and is very much part of the culture of Airbnb and Airbnb hosts. So interestingly, the idea for Airbnb.org itself to help people in times of crisis came from a host originally. Way back, there was a hurricane that hit New York City, and a host reached out and said, "I'd like to open up my home to people who have evacuated," and that sort of went viral. And hundreds of hosts stepped up to help out. And so the hosts are definitely activated. Hosts are taking extra special care of our guests. Many hosts also will give a discount so that the credits that we issue to people go further. And thousands of hosts around the world will donate on an ongoing basis a percentage of their proceeds that comes to Airbnb.org as a donation, and then we're able to use that to pay for folks to stay around the world. And so the hosts are really the lifeblood of Airbnb, of the platform, and they're core to our ability to respond quickly.
And 100% of those donations go toward finding housing. Is that right?
That's right. So we have this really interesting model where Airbnb is our biggest donor and covers all of our operating expenses, all of our staff, it gives us the access to the technology, they waive their fees. And so all of that's already covered. When we get a donation from the public, every 100 cents of that gets transferred to a family in need for them to be able to book an Airbnb that's going to fit their needs. And so if you're looking for a way to directly impact families who've evacuated because of this fire, you can hop on our website and make a donation, and that money will be helping house a family in need in a time of crisis.
Let's also talk about your humanitarian background. Just touch on this real quick. You've been monitoring the situation closely in Spokane. Tell me about something that you wish that families knew, whether that be the affected families or, like you said, Airbnb community partners and neighbors who are righteously and scared and concerned about what's happening.
Sure. I mean, I think, I want people to know that they're not alone and that we are here to help them. And we're a young organization and not a lot of people know about us. So the more people can share the word that Airbnb.org is here to help, we're a resource for you. I think that's going to help us move faster and help more people. I think we just need to be prepared. We are seeing, an increasing frequency and intensity of these kinds of events. There are more wildfires, there are more floods. And so we all need to be more and more vigilant, more and more prepared for these kinds of situations because there will certainly be more in our future. And I think the good news is our ability to forecast is better and better for extreme weather events, for example. Our communications tools are better and better. And so while these things are scary, there are more resources available, more professionalism, more data. And so I think, it's kind of a good news, bad news story.
Oh, we love good news when we can get it. Speaking of good news, I always like to end my interviews with a message of hope. So tell me something about this situation in Washington, something about Airbnb.org that is giving you a little bit of hope right now.
When these difficult things happen, it's really inspiring to see communities step up to help each other. And it's inspiring to see the brave men and women who are out there on the front lines fighting the fires on our behalf. And, as scary as these things are, it really brings out the best in humanity when your neighbor needs help. People do answer the call, and we're just a small part of that. And it's just a huge privilege for us to play a small role in this terrible moment.
Christoph, those are pretty much all of my questions. Do you have anything to add?
Great. If you are interested in helping out or learning more, you can jump on our website, airbnb.org, and learn more about the work that we do around the world and at home here in Washington State this week.